This is the weekly energy strategy that actually works. And at the end of the day, motivation is a flat out liar. It hypes you up when you least need it, and it ghosts you when things get hard. And today we're going to destroy that myth that you need to feel inspired to get results. And what you really need is a system, one built around how your energy actually works across the week. And once you learn this, you're never going to fall off again. But real quick, if this episode happens to help you, do me a favor and pass it on, share it with a friend, drop a review, whatever feels right, not just for me, but because it might be exactly what someone needs to get on track. So the core concept today that we're going to be chatting about is that people treat fitness like it's an emotional decision when it's really just a logistical one. So the key shift here that we're doing is we're going to stop asking, am I motivated? And start asking, where am I at in the energy curve this week? And what we're doing with this is that we're actually building a fitness system based on energy patterns, not feelings. Because when you really think about it, how many times were you really fully energized, you got really good sleep, and you were like, I really don't want to work out today? Probably still often. So even if you do feel good to work out, you still don't have the motivation to do that. So instead of relying on feelings, we're going to rely on systems. So let's get right into it. So Monday through Tuesday. So this is where we have high cognitive control. These are what I like to call anchor days. These are or priority days, whatever you want to call them. So what's actually happening here is that dopamine and discipline are higher post weekend because you have the clean slate bias going on here. So there's fewer interruptions, which equals more willpower and bandwidth. Because we all know that when you actually have time to recharge on the weekend, unless you're like me and you work all the time, then you have then you'll be able to be ready and you're going to be at your peak right here. And the prefrontal cortex here of the decision making isn't burnt out yet because as we know, as we get longer, deeper into the week, the more decisions we make. And then over that compounding and accumulation, it's a lot harder to make decisions. And also your willpower to make those decisions starts declining. So some tactical tips here is that first off, on these first 2 days, Monday through Tuesdays, we want to lift heavy, we want to learn skills, or do long intervals. So these require the most amount of neurological readiness. And so we want to write like a 3x3 plan. We want to have 3 workouts ready, 3 healthy meals ready, and 3 recovery actions ready. Okay. And we don't want to be trying new recipes. We want to cook double what we actually know works. Okay. Because that's going to save bandwidth for later on during the time. Okay. And then you're going to schedule appointments for Friday and Saturday to create accountability for later in the week, because that's going to be willpower is going to be the lowest. So you might as well schedule it while you do have the most willpower and then make appointments like it is a meeting. So that way you don't miss out on or skimp out on it towards the end of the week for your training. And a thought that you probably haven't had yet is that the best time to create discipline is when you don't need it. So use this window to automate the rest of the week. Now let's move on to Wednesday through Thursday. Okay, the midweek. This is the midweek drift. This is where we go into sustain mode. So what's actually happening here is that you're battling decision fatigue from work and life demands. So cortisol is going to rise midweek, and it's going to lower patience, creativity, and this is where the gym skipping starts happening. It starts happening here and not necessarily Friday. So some tactical tips to take away from this on these Wednesday and Thursday days is to switch to plug and play workouts. So no thinking, just moving. Again, if you go to a gym like Red Wolf, like my gym, it's already plug and play. So you just got to show up, which makes even Monday and Tuesday even easier. And that's how we kind of program around the week as well. So we want to build a midweek meal matrix. So we want 2 proteins, 2 carbs, 1 veggie, and you're going to rotate those, okay? And then you're going to do contrast showers. You're going to either cold exposure in the morning to kind of re-spark energy. And you're going to shift your goal from performance to just consistency, okay? That's really important. So Wednesday through Thursday, we're not worrying too much about how we're doing. We're just worrying about actually doing it. So a thought you probably haven't had yet about the Wednesday, Thursday is that midweek isn't when people quit. It's when they start to quit that shows up on Friday. So you need to stop the bleeding here before it gets out of hand. And then this is actually where you stop the cycle. And we're going to move on to Friday and Sunday. So this is where we come into what I like to call the minimal effective dose. We don't want to break the chain. So what's actually happening is that the weekend reward loop kicks in. So food, alcohol, social obligations, whatever. And the circadian rhythm shifts later. So you sleep a little bit later because you're kind of tired. You eat a little bit later and you move a little bit less. And so you're rationalized skipping with the idea of a fresh start on Monday. How many of you have done that? We all have. So some tactical tips here is that first off, you want to anchor Saturday and Sunday with a non-negotiable active task. Okay. So choose one day. You have to choose one. You don't have a choice. So either a long walk, bike ride, swim, hike, park workout, come to the gym, whatever. But just get in one day on the weekend, and make it as low barrier to entry, something as easy as you can do. Make it as short as you want, make it as long as you want, doesn't matter, but make it something that you know for a fact can get done. And then you're going to combine training with pleasure. So zone two on the bike with like Netflix, or I like to listen to a podcast. And then you can, or you can ruck with like music. You can just go for like a nice long walk, music, talk to a friend, doesn't matter. And then you're going to track weekly calories or step counts. So we're worrying more about what's happening throughout the entire week and not what's necessarily happening daily on the weekends. Okay. So we just want to accumulate as much as we can on the weekends that will actually kind of sustain us and propel us and give us some momentum into the next week. And we want to plan default meals. Okay. So for Friday night and Saturday lunch, so that way we limit the damage, okay? Because a lot of you guys are going to go out, you're going to drink, you're going to have some fun with your friends. Again, nothing wrong with that, but at least have some default meals planned or prepped and ready to where that you don't destroy your entire weekend because you're just too lazy to cook, or you're too lazy to eat something healthy, or too lazy to go grocery shopping. Have something preset that you know is going to be healthy, so that way you can eat it, and that way you at least have something under your belt that is going to still sustain you. And so another thing you probably haven't thought of yet on these Friday and Saturday, so Friday through Sunday, the weekend, that you probably haven't thought of yet, is that the weekend doesn't kill your progress. It just resets your nervous system. So you have to train light, recover well, and let their weekend recharge your brain, not sabotage your body. So you have to really be careful about your intake, about how much you sleep, because that's going to, especially if you're older, it's going to really affect how Monday and the rest of the week goes. And the problem is, if you let your weekend slip too much, this is the huge reason why you need to be prepared, have non-negotiable scheduled, have the meals prepped, is because that if you let the weekend just go to complete shit, it is not going to end well, or you're not going to keep that momentum up going to the week, because you're going to now be spending your Monday recovering and your Tuesday recovering, which should be your momentum days. And then guess what? Towards the end of the week, you're just going to keep repeating the same freaking cycle over and over again. And this is why people get stuck. This is why people get fat. This is why people blame other circumstances. And it's because at the end of the day, they're just shooting themselves in the foot. Okay? So stop doing that. So the big idea here, or the big thing that we're really talking about, is energy over emotion, because it's just a cycle, just like anything else. We're just going through a cycle, and we have full control over that cycle that we put ourselves into. So energy over emotion. Your time, attention, and energy are resources, so stop trading them for motivation. And motivation is simply just a spike. Energy is a wave, so learn how to surf, okay? So you're not lazy, you're just misaligned if you're not feeling this right now. And so some action lists that you can actually implement as of today is, first off, write down your Monday through Tuesday high effort workouts now. Again, if you go to the gym, don't need to worry about that. We pre-schedule it for you and put them on your calendar. But just make sure, I really am a big believer in getting in the Monday, Tuesday workouts right away. That's going to give you energy and motivation and momentum into the rest of the week. Second, you're going to pick one midweek workout that you could do even if you're tired, hungover, or pissed off. Again, you want something low barrier to entry, something that you know for a fact can get done regardless of your circumstances or your mood. And then third, you're going to screenshot 3 weekend movement options that don't require the gym. Okay. Great. If you can make it to the gym, please do. By all means, it's probably the best thing you can do. But if you're just not feeling it, have 3 options ready, lined up, and you're going to pick one of the 3. Again, if it's preset and you're ready to do it, and you have 3 options lined up, you're not stuck on Saturday being like, well, what am I going to do today? You have 3 options already lined up. And now from there, again, you're making the decision. The decision fatigue is less when it's there, and you're just going to make the choice. And finally, number 4, you're going to build your 5-day food plan using 3 meals per day, repeat and automate. Okay. You really only need 3 to 5 meals per, like, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you're going to rotate those, and you're going to find something that works well, that's easy to prepare, and that actually will get down. Okay. And then what we want here is that we want consistency that feels automatic instead of motivational. So this is a system. So you want to front load your week right off the midweek drift, cruise through the weekend with smart defaults. Okay. You want to have some sort of defaults in there, and you don't need more hype. You need more rhythm. And that's how you win the week every week. So if you need help with this, do me a favor and shoot me a DM at Red Wolf Matt, and I'll have this template sent to you. And then I'll completely customize this for you for free if that's something that you need some help with and you need some momentum. So if this was helpful, do me a favor and leave us a 5-star review so that way I know to make more content just like this. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Red Wolf CrossFit and DM your content suggestions there. Love to hear from you. Until next time, good luck, have fun. Nailed it.